now it's time to accurately start representing our community in major TV and film. It's really important.
Candido Cornejo is a proud Latinx trans casting professional with almost 10 years of experience coming from prestigious casting offices. Today, Candido is here to spill the tea and tell us what's really happening in those rooms where decisions are being made in regards to representation and diversity in TV and film. We want to welcome to the show the fabulous Candido Cornejo. Welcome, Candido.
Thank you, guys.
We're
Thank
so
you.
happy to have you here with us today. Thank you for taking the time to sit.
Yes.
And I can't wait because when we spoke before, you're like, we're going to spill the tea and the tea shall be spilled.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But we want to start a little bit in getting to know you better and about your experience and growing up and what was it like for you and what took you on this journey that now, you know, you're casting and in production and obviously in these rooms where all these decisions about representation are being made.
Yeah. Well, I was always like really intrigued by the arts. I mean, I come from Eastern Oregon, a very small town. And so for a queer kid, it was kind of like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to leave this town or am I going to like use my imagination to get by? So I was really intrigued like by theater, the movies, like my parents were huge on movies, are still huge on movies. So I always knew that I wanted to somehow get involved. And so I was traveling back and forth between Eastern Oregon and LA a lot because I wanted to be an actor, you know. And so once, the more I did it, the more I realized that I wanted to do what was happening behind the scenes, you know. Like with directors, I was like, no, I think it should be done like this, you know. And then doing the auditions, I was like, I want to pass judgment instead of being judged on, you know. So, but yeah, so I just kind of decided to come to LA and just do it. It was either theater or film, and I went to film school. I majored in directing, and the more I was doing it, the more I was falling in love with actors and the process, and I took it very, very seriously. I still had my contacts, my connects with acting schools and agencies, and so when I was in film school, I was constantly calling people and saying, hey, who do you have, who do you have? And so anyway, fast forward, I graduated and I was like, I know I'm not gonna be like a director immediately and I don't wanna like run around and be a PA, so what do I do? And they were like, you should get into casting because you're really good with actors. And I did it, and I was working for 2 years, you know, doing makeup and just trying to pay my bills while I got into my first major casting office. And a wonderful acting coach by the name of Heidi Davis, she used to teach at Howard Fine. She was going to see a play with Ronnie Yeskel, who is a huge casting director, veteran casting director, and said, I could introduce you. You know, let me introduce you to them, and said, okay, great, and I did, and we fell in love with each other, and that just started my career, like instantly. And so ever since then, I've been really blessed to be working with huge casting people. So I went from Ronnie Yeskel's office to Rosalinda Morales, who's a independent casting director.
I adore.
Yeah, Rosalinda's
that yo
fantastic.
amo a Rosalinda Morales.
Yeah.
Like literally, we've traveled together. She's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She partnered with Pauline O'Con, who was a casting executive. So I learned a lot of stuff from her, from like the studio network side. It's very, very different from independent casting. Went to Fern Champion's office, who is a fabulous casting director. Learned a lot from her how to be an actual casting director. We were nominated for an Emmy for Hatfields and McCoys for the History Channel. An epic series and one of the most wonderful experiences that I had. And went over to Scott Jenkinger's office to work on The Fosters for a couple of seasons. And that was really like the turning point for me as a queer artist, as a queer person, because it was like when I was questioning, like, I was already non-binary at the time, but I was like questioning, and they were the first office on it was produced by Bradley Bredwig and Peter Page, and just reading the material and like the character of Jude and you know, Blue for Jude, the nail polish, and I remember like, can I wear nail polish to work at the office? And I was so scared because like I was told consistently that I couldn't do it. I was told consistently that I couldn't, you know, wear makeup. It was considered unprofessional, or I used to work in makeup. I continued my makeup jobs, and even these corporations would tell me that I couldn't be who I was.
Because that's actually, I your whole experience and your journey is so amazing. I wonder what it was like to like go into like this very serious, because some of them are very, like proper casting offices, and be like, okay, this is me. Were they like, oh wow, we need a fresh perspective like yours, or they were like, oh no, my God, what do we do with?
Well, it's interesting because they hired me because of my casting experience. They hired me because on paper I was, I'm good at what I do. And I was already active with CSA and everything, so but I was coming out of my shell, this is who I am and these are my true colors, and I was just really fortunate to be with them because they were like, yeah, wear nail polish, do whatever you want, who cares? And I was like, can I wear a black dress? And they were like, you can wear whatever you want.
Oh,
and I went to the director's room with, it was an episode, and it was with the producers, and I remember Peter is like, I like your nail polish. I was like, oh, thank you.
And you knew you were in the right place. So Liz, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but we do have to take a break. When we come back, more with Candido, right here on the Q Agenda.
And we are back with more from Candido Cornejo. So I actually want to go back. You had said something about when you were when you were acting, something kind of turned where you felt like you wanted to do the casting. Why exactly is that? Because I feel like I'm kind of that way too.
Okay.
I'm like, wait a minute. What in you kind of brought you to that point?
I always, so as I was working with directors and producers, I always had an opinion, or I had a vision of the way that it was supposed to be. And so I basically was like, I should how can I do that? How can I express and direct my vision? And so that's when somebody said, that's a director, or that's a producer. And actually, I was in a casting workshop with Ivy Eisenberg as a casting director. And then I was like, I want to do that job. How do you do that? Because she was giving direction and she was really good at it. And then I had my own little things. And then so I finally told her, is this a thing? It's how do I know if I want to be a casting director? And she kind of looked at me well, it's do you want to do that or do you want to do this? I'm like, I actually really want to do this. And she said, okay, then just start getting to know your directors and your producers, and just give it a shot and see what, how you feel about it. And I did it, and I was like, oh, this is it. I'm at home. I care more about telling a whole story in general versus me just being behind the scenes. You know what I mean? I don't want to limit myself to just being behind the camera.
And with so many roles in Hollywood and trying to bring in diversity, I'm sure there are times where there are uncomfortable conversations that you've probably had with other people within the agencies. How exactly do you deal with that?
So that's actually a great question, because we have so many conversations about this, because I'm always constantly active with inclusion and diversity, particularly for our community. And what I've noticed in my journey was that it seems like we've had plenty of conversations about representing the LGBTQIA community in general in film and TV, but then it stops at a heteronormative role or heteronormative type of representation for a gay character. But it was the only way to almost normalize our people in front of a general population.
It's so insane that when I get called in to read and I'm like, okay, lesbian part, let me read for it. And then I see who they eventually casted, and it's some film person, and I'm like, why did you have me in?
Yeah. It feels like, I'm having this huge conversation with CSA about this very topic. Okay. And what we realize is that, look, we've worked so hard to normalize ourselves in the general population, but now it's time to start being like, hey, so there's queer people, there's trans people, there's non-binary people. It's time to start normalizing that. And then when I'm sitting in rooms and, we have veteran casting directors, veteran directors, producers, writers, who are cisgender heteronormative passing, right? But they think that, oh, but I already cast Matt Bomer or Colton Haynes or whoever, and that's it, we're done.
Check.
Yeah, check. I'm like, no, actually you casting somebody who is heteronormative at this point is no longer inclusive. So it's my job to say, we need to seriously start considering the rest of our people. Even myself, I'm the only trans person. Actually, I just found out there's another trans professional who's an associate. I'm here, hi, what about us? And then they go, oh, You know, and if we dissect it, I think it's because like they didn't want to necessarily offend the community by stereotype casting like a femme person. So let's normalize by showing something normal. So thank you so much for the work, but now it's time to accurately start representing our community in major TV and film. It's really important.
In television and in film, do you see a little bit more of a change happening?
There is a change, which is lovely. Even like when I was an associate, we didn't see. So we have we make breakdowns, and we use breakdown services, and now casting and the casting networks, and we write like the descriptions. We say like Bob, male, female, you know, all ethnicities, whatever, and then like the description, right? Now we're starting to see like all genders. You know, we're starting to see all ethnicities, and people are having the conversation, can this person be this? You know, what is the term gender fluid or non-binary?
That's exciting.
And
That's
then we
exciting.
have, and that's great that we see that, but is it enough? It's not. So we're continuing the journey in the education process of saying like, this is what this is, and this is what this terminology means, but it seems like Hollywood in general are still uncomfortable to ask the questions because they don't know like, how do I know if they are? How do I ask for somebody's pronouns? Like they really don't know.
But luckily, we have people like you now in those rooms starting those conversations. So it gives us hope that at least we have, you know, there's like a little bit of light coming through, and hopefully we'll just open many other doors.